Welcome to the Explainer. It's funny, we usually think of children's stories as just simple little tales, right? But honestly, they can actually serve as these incredibly profound blueprints for understanding complex human psychology. Today, we're going to unpack a brilliant example of this. It's a story about a young girl named Barira and a seemingly innocent pink cat watch. We're going to see how just one tiny little spark of negative emotion can create a massive snowball effect. So get ready, because the behavioral insights we're about to pull from this, they are things we all deal with literally no matter how old we are.
Right off the bat, we have this character named Raiqa, and she drops this line. She says, "It's not that special. I've seen many watches like this. I have much better ones." Ouch, right? I mean, have you ever shared a moment of just pure joy with someone, only to have them instantly pop your balloon with a comment exactly like that? This dismissive reaction immediately sets the tension in our story. It's this cold, hard response to someone else's happiness, and it perfectly sets the stage for the whole behavioral cascade we're about to analyze.
So, to make sense of all this, we're going to deconstruct this scenario step by step. 1. The pink cat watch. 2. Suspicion and misunderstanding. 3. The root cause, jealousy. 4. The chain of bad deeds. And finally, number 5, the power of forgiveness.
Okay, let's jump right into section 1, the pink cat watch. Now, pretty much every big interpersonal drama starts with some kind of tangible focal point. In this case, it's a watch. Barira's father, her Baba, gifted her this really beautiful pink cat watch that has these colorful lights. But the crucial context here is why she got it. This wasn't just some random toy she picked up at the store. It was a reward because she actually came in first in her final exams. So for Barira, this watch represents a well-earned reward. Her excitement is just rooted in this innocent pride for her hard work. She just wants to share her joy. She's definitely not trying to belittle anyone else.
And this right here perfectly illustrates the initial friction between how these two characters react to success. On one side, you have Barira just radiating excitement over a totally well-deserved, colorful watch. But then on the exact opposite side, you have Raiqa, who feels this immediate, almost impulsive need to belittle the achievement by claiming she has much better watches. Raiqa isn't just ignoring it, she is actively trying to diminish the watch's value, which, by extension, diminishes Barira's hard-earned success.
That brings us to section 2, suspicion and misunderstanding.
So now we've hit this classic disconnect between intent and assumption. Barira's internal intent is super simple. I am showing my well-earned gift. But Raiqa's internal assumption, it's entirely different. She's thinking she is showing off to make me jealous. Raiqa is completely projecting malicious intent onto Barira's completely innocent joy. And honestly, this gap right here, between what is actually meant and what is perceived, that's where all the trouble begins.
The source material actually uses a really specific, powerful term for this psychological leap: badgomani. Basically, badgomani is the act of making negative assumptions or harboring unwarranted suspicion about someone else's intentions. Raiqa's cynical assumption that Barira is purposely trying to burn her with jealousy, that is an absolute textbook example of badgomani. Instead of just giving her classmate the benefit of the doubt, Raiqa jumps straight to assuming the absolute worst. And that ties into a really profound piece of wisdom from the Prophet's teachings, which is actually brought up by the character Kaneez Fatima in the story. It says, negative assumptions or badgomani are the root cause that creates hatred between people. Just think about how true that is in our everyday life. When we assume someone is out to get us or acting with bad intentions, it instantly breeds defensiveness, resentment, and ultimately hatred. It literally builds a wall where there absolutely didn't need to be one.
Which leads us to section 3, the root cause, which is jealousy.
So why do we make these negative assumptions in the first place? Well, the answer lies in a concept called hasad. Now listen, this isn't just your everyday fleeting feeling of envy where you think, oh man, I wish I had a cool watch too. No, hasad is a destructive jealousy where someone is not just unhappy with another person's blessing, but they actively wish for that blessing to be lost or taken away. This is the real disease driving Raiqa's behavior. She doesn't just want a watch for herself. She wants Barira to not have her watch.
The teachings referenced in the source put it so simply yet so powerfully. Jealousy destroys love. It's so true. Hasad acts like this corrosive acid in relationships. It corrupts everything from the inside out, totally blinding the jealous person to logic, fairness, and empathy. Because Raiqa is so infected with hasad, she is entirely incapable of just feeling happy for her classmates' academic success.
Moving on to section 4, the chain of bad deeds.
The thing about unchecked jealousy is that it rarely ever stays isolated, right? It escalates.
First, Raiqa complains to the teacher. Then she actually steals and hides the watch. Next, she encourages others to join in her misdeeds. And finally, she lies to cover the whole thing up. I mean, she went from just feeling a little annoyed to literally becoming a thief and a liar in a super short amount of time. Talk about a snowball effect. Let's actually dig into the specific details of how one bad deed inevitably dragged Raiqa down into several more without her even really realizing it. So first, she tries to get Barira in trouble by complaining to the teacher about the watch. But guess what? That completely backfires. The teacher actually praises Barira for her hard work. Frustrated by this, Raiqa escalates things. She sneaks into Barira's bag and outright steals the watch. And how does she justify this? She rationalizes it to herself as just teaching a lesson. When her peer Areeba sees this, objects and says, "Hey, this is stealing," Raiqa just ignores her. And the kicker? When she's finally confronted, Raiqa doesn't just lie. She falsely claims that Areeba helped her hide the watch. She actively tries to take an innocent bystander down with her. It is wild, but it perfectly illustrates how hased completely blinds us to our own toxic behavior.
Finally, Section 5, the power of forgiveness.
Thankfully, the story does not end there. That crazy snowball effect is finally halted by a sudden moment of self-awareness. Raiqa is confronted with the harsh reality of her actions. She explicitly admits that being jealous, having that hased, made her do terrible things that she didn't even realize were piling up. She acknowledges that she completely lost control of her emotions, and most importantly, she takes accountability and actually asks Areeba and Barira for forgiveness. She actively decides to stop the snowball from rolling any further.
And the response she gets is just truly beautiful. Earlier in the story, they mention a specific hadith that says, Allah increases honor for those who forgive. Embracing this teaching, Areeba and Barira make the conscious, active choice to show grace. They don't seek revenge, they just forgive Raiqa. It brilliantly shows how grace and forgiveness are the ultimate circuit breakers for conflict. While jealousy destroys relationships, forgiveness repairs and actually elevates them.
We've seen how something as simple as a pink watch triggered this massive, complex chain of suspicion, jealousy, theft, and lies, all of which was only resolved by the incredible power of forgiveness. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, really vital question to think about. The next time you feel that sudden pang of jealousy, that hased, creeping in when someone else succeeds, are you going to let it snowball into negative assumptions and bad actions? Or will you recognize it, stop it right at the root, and choose grace instead? Thank you so much for joining me today, and I highly encourage you to keep questioning and looking for the deeper lessons in the stories all around us.